Hello and thank you for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Aglaea the Goldweaver. Aglaea is the acting leader of Okama, the holy city of Memphorius, also known as the last bastion of humanity. It should be noted that Okama is usually ruled by a council, but because Memphorius is currently in a crisis, they've handed leadership over to Aglaea temporarily. Which is kind of similar, like declaring martial law if I'm not mistaken, though do correct me on that because I'm not very familiar. Aglaea is one of the 12 Chrysos heirs and holds the core flame of romance. She has already returned the core flame, whatever that really means, I'm not super sure, and she is now a demigod. So when she was first drip marketed, the hype was really high because her design was really nice, and frankly it still is. Nothing's really changed about that. But the community reception since 3.0's release has definitely changed a lot. Because of the main story events of 3.0 with Aglaea distrusting us and kind of betraying us, a lot of people really started disliking to hating her outright. Especially that interrogation scene. Personally, I don't really mind. A lot of people understand her, but still bear hostility towards her. Well, I understand, and I frankly don't really care. But gameplay-wise, she's also the first Remembrance DPS and Memphorius character we'll get access to. She's also the first character that uses joint attacks, which all of the information is based on what we know from the story trial that's already in-game, as well as the creator experience server. Multipliers are taken from Braxophone and Guoba certified, so thanks. And the energy generation, for some reason those two didn't document it, so I went to MrPokke's guide, which thankfully he did, so thanks for that. In terms of base stats, it's alright. I mean, she has pretty high base attack, pretty average speed, and by far the highest energy cost in the entire game. By a huge margin. The next highest energy cost is 220, which is the big Hertas. Okay, technically the next highest energy cost is Firefly, but the one after that is the big Herta, which is only 220. I say only in air quotes because 220 is still quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, her speed is also quite average, which would matter for the speed percent buffs that we'll see she gets later on. Her basics are basic. They generate 1 skill point and 20 energy, which is identical to most other basics. Her skill summons Garment Maker, then sets Aglaea's AV to 0. If Garment Maker is already present, she restores health equal to half of Garment Maker's max HP instead. If Garment Maker is already present, it does not set Aglaea's AV to 0. If Garment Maker is on the field, which it almost always will be, you should never use her skill. This consumes 1 skill point and generates 20 energy. So for her talent, Garment Maker's speed is equal to 35% of Aglaea's out of combat speed. And its HP is equal to 66% of Aglaea's max HP plus 720. Additionally, when Garment Maker is present, Aglaea's attacks inflict Seam Stitch. When attacking enemies with Seam Stitch, she deals additional damage equal to 30% of Aglaea's attack. As for Garment Maker's talent, when it attacks enemies with Seam Stitch, Garment Maker gains 55 speed until disappearing, stacking up to 6 times, which is absolutely absurd. Garment Maker will attack automatically and prioritize enemies that have Seam Stitch. If Garment Maker dies and is resummoned, it has to re-ramp up the speed buff. Garment Maker's active skill just does blast damage. It's fairly solid and it generates 10 energy for Aglaea. For the other two passive talents, when Garment Maker is summoned, immediately advances its action by 100%, so it will almost always act immediately. Additionally, when Garment Maker disappears, it regenerates 20 energy for Aglaea. Although as much as possible, you should try not to let Garment Maker die for reasons I'll go into in a bit. So her ult summons Garment Maker, and if Garment Maker is already on the field, it heals it to full instead. This sets Aglaea's AV to 0 and causes her to enter the Supreme Stance state. The Supreme Stance state lasts for 100 AV on the action bars, similar to Robin's Concerto and Firefly's Complete Combustion. When that 100 AV ends, Garment Maker disappears. Additionally, if Garment Maker disappears prematurely via like enemy attacks or something, Supreme Stance will also immediately end. This is the biggest reason why you don't want Garment Maker to die. Additionally, using the ult again will reset Supreme Stance's AV back to 100. Again, this costs 350 energy. So what does Supreme Stance do? First off, Aglaea will gain 15% speed for each stack of speed boost that Garment Maker has. So this is up to an additional 90% speed, which is about 90 speed, give or take, which is again absurd. Additionally, Garment Maker will also be immune to CC, which is very, very nice. Aglaea's basic attack is also enhanced to the enhanced basic attack, which should be the next slide. And with her A2 trace, Aglaea will gain attack equal to 720% of her speed, plus 360% of Garment Maker speed, which is an absolute ton of attack. Based on what Guoba and Brax and MrPokke said, this equates to about 3,000 to 4,000 attack, which is absurd. So as for the enhanced basics, Aglaea and Garment Maker launch a joint attack on the target, dealing damage equal to 200% of their combined attack to a single target and 90% of their combined attack to adjacent enemies. Technically, this is not quite how it works, I'm fairly certain, because the way it's worded in game is that it deals damage equal to 200% of Aglaea's attack and 200% of Garment Maker's attack. So I would assume that the buffs and crit would be calculated separately. So technically it's not the same, but it's close enough considering that her crit rate will be a lot of the time very close to 100%. And most buffs that target her would either be AoE completely or it would be specified to target both the Memosprite and Memomaster like Sunday and Blazer. Her technique summons Garment Maker to launch a joint attack in the overworld. After entering combat, she regenerates 30 energy and deals damage equal to 100% of her attack to all enemies and inflicts Seam Stitch to a random enemy. This also summons Garment Maker at the start of combat, and because of Garment Maker's quote-unquote trace, it'll immediately advance by 100% and immediately take action, which starts Garment Maker off with one stack of this speed buff. For her A2 trace, it's the aforementioned trace that gives her 720% of her speed and 360% of Garment Maker's speed as attack during Supreme Stance, which is, again, absolutely insane. Her A4 trace allows Garment Maker to retain one stack of their speed buff when it's resummoned, should it disappear. This is more just quality of life. Like I've been constantly mentioning, you do not want Garment Maker to die because it dying would prematurely end Supreme Stance, as well as having to re-ramp up the speed buff again. But E6 trait is a quality of life for non-endgame modes, which is at the start of combat, if energy is less than half, it regenerates energy to half, or 175 energy. She also gets 22.4% lightning damage bonus, 12% crit rate, and 12.5% defense from minor traces. Her E1 is the Dolphin Bait. It gives enemies with Seam Stitch 15% vulnerability. After either Aglaea or Garment Maker attacks an enemy with Seam Stitch, it regenerates 20 energy. This, I'm pretty sure, single-handedly solves her energy issues, even without Sunday or Huohuo. For her E2, when Aglaea or Garment Maker take action, they both gain 14% defense ignore on their attacks, lasting until another ally or enemy uses an ability, stacking up to 3 times. Her E3 gives +2 trace levels to her skill and +1 to her basics. Her E4 allows Garment Maker's speed boost to stack one more time for up to a total of 385 speed boosts at Memosprite level 6. Her E5 gives +2 trace levels to her ult and talents, and her E6 gives both Aglaea and Garment Maker 20% lightning res pen. Additionally, when either of their speeds exceed 160 or 240 or 320, they gain 10% or 20% or 60% joint attack damage bonus, although I am not sure if this can stack, but either way it should still be really strong. Aglaea will most likely be pretty good but she really needs Sunday and ideally Huohuo to be top tier. Because again, 350 max energy, like, not much is gonna be able to fill that quickly without using percentage-based energy like Huohuo or Sunday. Additionally, she's also quite skill point neutral because most of the time she's spamming enhanced basics, which don't generate skill points, but it doesn't use them either, despite taking a billion turns. But Sunday and Huohuo are really needed to unlock her full potential because she really needs that uptime on her ultimate, but other battery sources, notably Quid Pro Quo and Tinjin, are fairly ineffective because of that gargantuan energy cost, so she would prefer Sunday and Huohuo's 20% energy, which leads to 70 energy instead of Tinjin's 50 or 60 with E6. Again, like I mentioned earlier, her reception within the community, well, specifically r/Honkai Star Rail in this one post I found, is not good. It really is not good. Other than the people who are down bad, I barely found any people who said like, oh yeah, I like her. Which is not a very good look for the first Amphorius character we get. Right, thanks for watching and hope you enjoyed. You might as well check out some of my other PowerPoints while you're watching this one if you haven't already. If you want, you can also let me know what you thought of this video, what video or PowerPoint I should make next in the comments, or heck, even what I can improve on. I will read and respond to all of them. Alright, bye!